Is your passion for productivity a little unhealthy? Are you a productivity geek? Let's do a quick self-assessment using a Likert scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree on these three statements.
Question 1. I'm always changing my productivity system with the hope that it will finally give me a sense of relief that all will get done. Question 2. I look to productivity experts with the hope to get more insights to better tackle projects and tasks, master time management, and to be better with procrastination. Question 3. I always have a feeling of being behind in life. I get strong feelings of guilt for all the things I never get done and feel pressure to be more efficient with my time.
If you strongly agreed with the first two statements, you're probably a productivity geek. But if you also strongly agreed with the third statement, you may have an unhealthy relationship with productivity, like I do. And that's why I love reading the book, Oliver Burkeman's book, 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. It changes the entire premise on productivity and time management. During a time of peak productivity where everyone's talking about these amazing note-taking apps and task management apps, and everyone has a productivity system that allows them to get more stuff done and be more efficient with their time, Oliver is zagging. He's telling us about the limitations of our time, to go ahead and neglect things, to be okay with not having the right system. And that's why it's the perfect book for someone like me who's gone down the rabbit hole of productivity the last few years. Now, the book's title is deceptive in that it's not really a tactical approach to time management. It's really a philosophy book about life, but that doesn't mean you can't use the principles in the book and apply it to that feeling of always being behind in life. And that's what I did. So I'm gonna break down my 3 favorite lessons from the book and how it changed my productivity mindset. Now, I don't want this video to be a substitute for actually reading the book, so I'm gonna leave page numbers for each of these lessons, as well as additional page numbers and sections within the description below as a resource if you pick this book up. All right, lesson 1, embrace hard choices. It's about saying no to what you want to do. This sort of blew my mind because it's so simple. Embrace the limitations of your time rather than add more things in. So it's not about eating frogs in the morning or using a matrix to prioritize your tasks.
Page 78. The good procrastinator accepts the fact that she cannot get everything done, then decides as wisely as possible what tasks to focus on and what to neglect. The bad procrastinator finds himself paralyzed precisely because he cannot bear the thought of confronting his limitations.
It's about saying, I want to do that. I really want to do that, but I can't. You have to say no to the things you do want to achieve. There's no way to get it all done. That's the illusion. There's no system that's going to save you. And if you try, you'll make less progress and be miserable. I'm gonna give you an example of this in my life. Last year, I tried to take on more than I actually could handle. And it was this false sense of control that yes, I could juggle all these things. So I wanted to get this YouTube channel going, which means filming, editing, learning to speak on camera, marketing, learning the craft of YouTube and filmmaking. I also wanted to be more consistent with my newsletter and grow it. I also wanted to redesign my website. At the same time, I was trying to learn a programming language called R, and that was to have a new job skill. I also got a new job last year. Family obligations, my parents are getting older. My mom is always texting me about why the printer isn't working. And I put all this on my shoulders, and that's the part we forget. It's not just the obligation or the task, it's the feeling you get when you don't get that task or project done. That feeling, it rattles us psychologically. So the solution isn't efficiency or work better or work smarter or work faster. It's to accept time limitations. It's to proactively neglect things that you do want to do. So for me this year, I had to make the hard choice to say no to programming in R, no to my website, and no to the newsletter. And I said yes to YouTube, my family, and my career. So the big caveat here is that we're all different on how much we can take on. Some of you may have resonated with the example I just gave you, and others might have said, well, you just gotta grind. And that's okay, we're all naturally different, and some of us are naturally more talented than others, but it's all about knowing what your limitations are. Okay, lesson 2 is productivity patience.
Page 182. The urge to push onward beyond that point includes a big component of impatience about not being finished, about not being productive enough, about never again finding such ideal time for work. Stopping helps strain the muscle of patience that will permit you to return to your project again and again, and thus to sustain your productivity over an entire career.
So it's the idea of being okay with incompleteness, both in the short term and in the long term. So what I mean is if you set a goal for today and say, I'm gonna write for 2 hours or I'm gonna study for 2 hours, and you actually get it done, that's enough. You don't need to continue on. I think it's so much easier to say one more task than say, I'm gonna wait until tomorrow. And I read something where Ernest Hemingway would write, and even though he knew what the next sentence was gonna be, he stopped there because then he would have that energy and excitement when he came back the next day. And it's really about leaving a little bit in the tank and not exhausting yourself. And there's this concept called toxic productivity, and it's just like the modern version of the cliched attorney who's always in the office, or the consultant who's always on the road and they never stop working. And you're gonna burn out and be miserable. And I felt that last year, where everything was a means to an end and progress was all I cared about. At the end of the day, you gotta enjoy what you're doing in the moment. You gotta enjoy the journey. Life isn't about checking things off your to-do list or hitting goals fast. And there's something called the planning fallacy, where we think we have more time tomorrow even though we didn't have enough time today. And we're just horrible at calculating how much we can get done in a day. I don't know about you, but at the end of every single day, I have something left on my to-do list that I thought I could get done, but I didn't. So we have to practice patience and take the long view. And the writer Cal Newport talks about the idea of slow productivity. We want to make sure our productivity is sustainable. Think about how much you can get done in years, not in days or weeks. And it's so easy to fall into this trap of rushing, that time is slipping away. I'm in my 30s and I wish I started this like 5 years ago. But it's okay to take your time. Patience is a superpower. Some people will quit because they could never ease off on the brakes. Lesson 3, get comfortable with the feeling of being uncomfortable.
Page 108. The way to find peaceful absorption in a difficult project isn't to chase feelings of peace or absorption, but to acknowledge the inevitability of discomfort and to turn more of your attention to the reality of your situation than to railing against it.
So this is the idea of always having a feeling of discomfort around time management and your productivity, of things not being in your control. There's no productivity system for uncertainty and discomfort. There's no productivity nirvana. Your to-do list will never be tamed and you'll always want more time. And this is really for someone like me who has a type A personality. I have to control this feeling of anxiety because I feel like I have to prove myself. I have to validate my existence. Once you know the premise is false, it can help knowing that productivity is like life. Unpredictable, new tasks and obligations just pop up, filled with hard problems. Hard tasks are difficult and you want to avoid them, you want to procrastinate, and not a straight line. Your system changes because you don't know what you are looking for, or the circumstances change. And if you're a productivity geek like myself, you're gonna be using distraction, specifically productivity experts to help you cope. And this is very meta, but I get kind of scared getting on camera and it's just uncomfortable, it's uneasy. But I know that if I continue on and I practice and I make more videos, I will get more comfortable and this will become easier. But there'll always be some other task or project that I will deal with that will make me uncomfortable, I'll have negative emotions, and I'll use distractions. And that's okay. But being able to ride that wave of discomfort, to be able to face it, is really the solution. It's not about avoiding it or thinking someday that you'll figure it out. This is unfixable. You will always have that feeling and it's normal. So those are 3 of my favorite lessons from the book, but if you want a more granular tactical approach, check out this video on a fixed volume approach to your to-do list that Oliver mentions in the book.